Hi, I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
It's Dave, and we do have a special guest this week.
We do.
Is he going to make an appearance, Dave?
This is a new CSO. Here he is, the Chief Security Officer.
Called Mr. Merlin.
That, thank you. Yeah, he's trouble. He's only just woken up, and yeah, full of. Stay there.
Full of beans, by the looks of it. There,
beans, yes.
Right, anyway, sorry, let's get ourselves back onto the topic. I'm Matt, and thank you for joining us here live for today's session, which is going to be on the topic of scraping or web scraping for businesses. Now, we are going to be keeping this quite high level on what can be done or what could be done, just to give you like a taster of what is possible out there on the internet for not a lot of money. So that is the main topic of today's live mastermind. Now, of course, if you have any questions or comments, you can ask on the right-hand side of your screen. Do note, if you're on an iPad or similar, it does hide down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, that side. You need to click on the thing so it pops up. Or, of course, if you're watching a recorded version, you can ask in the comments section underneath this video or over in the Facebook group. And there's a link to that in the video description. Dave, before we carry on with the mastermind, I assume you've had a chance to catch up from your week away last week, and what's going on in the world of e-commerce, like from a news point of view?
So yeah, last week was largely all about the social networks. That was the big one from last week. So obviously Facebook, everybody's trying to decide whether they trust Facebook or not. Twitter made some changes to their policy regarding duplicate content and potentially with more Twitter accounts getting banned. And then we had the likes of Shopify and BigCommerce both announcing their integrations for Instagram shoppable posts, which again is a very interesting news there, the social e-commerce hybrid. Yeah, they were the big pieces last week. It was very much a social bit of news last week regarding the big social networks. Again, for all the latest news, go to eSellCafe.com, and at the top we've got the last 14 days in e-commerce, and you can catch up with all the latest posts there.
Fantastic. Now, I also need to put my hands up. Apologies for skipping last week. I'll be honest with you, I didn't realize it was Thursday until someone told me it was Thursday. And that's like 2 days later after the mastermind. I've just had my head down, flat out coding, which I'm sure most of you will find out in the impending future what I've been up to with a couple of different projects. One of them is actually one of them scraping related as well. Hence why this topic is very fresh in the back of my mind. So yes, hands up, my fault. I do apologize for missing last week. Hopefully I can make up for it this week for you. So let's get straight into today's topic. Now, Dave, do feel free to jump in at any point in time on this one.
Indeed. I'll be asking the dumb questions, I guess.
Okay. So let's start with the dumbest question first. Okay. Well, the scraping. What is it, and why would you be interested in it? Now, the simplest thing for you to do is maybe think about the Amazon website. Okay. And the thing is that very, very easily and very cheaply, you would be able to get either write a script yourself or get someone else to write a script for you, and to be able to extract information from the Amazon website. So that could be the title, that could be the images, the latest pricing, the competitors which are on there, the description, the reviews. Okay, for all intents and purposes, if you can see it in a web browser and it follows some form of pattern, it's extremely likely that that information could be extracted. Now, I used Amazon as an example because I'm sure most of you have all seen a product page or navigated Amazon as a buyer at some point in time. But this could also be a supplier's website. Now, those of you which were 2 weeks ago in the mastermind, then I'm sure you already know the story. I am just going to quickly repeat this just to give you an idea. Is that I used to work with a fashion company up in Manchester, and one of the owners there said, "Look, we've been given this access to this website by a supplier. Can you get this information off their site?" I was like, "Well, Funny you should say that. Matt has had a misspent adventure with scraping, because you can do intelligent things with scraping. Is that if you can imagine, you can extract some information. So is this person's name called Dave? We'll just keep it in plain language. Is this person's name called Dave? Is the answer yes or no? And you can do logic testing on this. And there was a browser-based game called Tribal Wars. And for all intents and purposes, I scraped 90% of all the boring stuff. And then suddenly went from having a little village this big to taking over like a quarter of the map. Which was no small feat, all written by scripts, and a lot of randomness included in that as well, just to make it look like it was being done by a human. Anyway, so my point being, got a bit of a misadventure. We'll get back to the fashion company now. Anyway, they came to me with this website, and it was this back end to a supplier's big brand supplier's website, and I kind of wrote the tool I was using was iMacros, which is a free tool which goes into the Firefox web browser, which can also be automated using a site called AlertFox as well. Do look that up, and I will just pop that in. Yes, you can. R. Smith, we'll get to that one. I'll just put this in the chat a second. iMacros. Look that up in the Googler. It's a browser plugin. It even works with Chrome as well. You can do some very amazing stuff with this. Now,
I remember that story years ago, Matt, of the mobile phone seller. Remember?
Oh yeah. That's fine a second, right? I
love that use of iMacros.
Yeah, there was a company which for a mobile phone supplier, and they really pissed me off because they basically lied to me about this phone, and they refused to answer their emails or their phone calls. So I wrote a contact. It was very simple, just a very simple thing. It just put in the why don't you answer your emails, and put my contact details in their form, and then I just looped it 1,000 times or however many times. I did a video on it, on YouTube on it, and we got a load of likes, and we got an apology from the MD. But imagine their inbox just filled out with, because they would not spam their own emails, would they, via their own contact form, and they had no capture on it either. So we did fill out their inbox. So yeah, iMacros and web scraping can be used for many different uses, but we're going to be focusing upon the business uses. Now, there is one comment which has just come in by R. Smith, which says, hi guys, I hope you can answer how to scrape a supplier's B2B website which is hidden behind a login page. Now, here is the thing. Like I said a few moments ago, like with the Amazon page and also the supplier's website, is that it was behind the login. And the thing is that anything which you can do by getting your mouse and clicking on a screen or typing information in, you can do that with a web scraper. So a login page, complete piece of to do, very easy to do. And the same for thinking of a very recent example. My own use is that I had a spider written for me. And by the way, this is what I suggest for you: get someone else to write it for you. We'll get to costs in a minute as well, later on. I wanted they had a currency drop down at the top of the page, and it does mean that then you need to store cookies and things like that. That's okay. But anyway, points aside, you can do stuff. If you can do it with your mouse and it's programmatically possible, then yes, you can be written into a scraping script. So yes, login, child's play, in short. So let's get back to that supplier, which was that they've given this back end, this business to business thing, like Mr. R. Smith was mentioned a few moments ago, and we went in. Well, I went in and extracted all of their information. And I mean all of their information: product images, descriptions, categorization, size variations, stock quantities, pricing, things like that. And then I got it out and I got it flattened down into a spreadsheet, which then meant we could put it into a piece of software, and then we were able to get it sold onto the marketplaces. And of course, then I wrote, and this is a key point, there was two scripts which was written. The first one, which has got the raw data, which could be run at a later date to go and get any new styles which they've been added. And then we wrote a second one, which go in and get all the latest stock info and stock prices, because you have two challenges. You need to get the original data, the product's images, the title, the variations, and et cetera, description, the big information. but you only normally need to do like once or maybe once a week to catch a couple of new items, for example. Whereas on a daily basis is that you would want to get the latest pricing information and stock information, because you don't really want to sell something which is out of stock. You also may, it depends on the supplier as well. There was a verbal conversation, which is that if the stock level's less than a 10, it might be a bit ropey. We can get them for you. So you might want to put your own rules in there. So if the stock quantity is 10 or less, then you set your stock quantity to 0, for example, which then, of course, if you then imported that stock update and pricing update into a third-party tool, which you're using to sell onto eBay, onto Amazon, onto your website, is that it would then it would disable the item or take the item off sale or do something with it, whatever your rules are within that software. And the thing is that company came in, and the business owner was very impressed by what had been done, because what could have taken him like weeks to do within his team, I'd probably pretty much written in the afternoon, and we got working, and it was actually getting used, and probably the information had actually hit eBay by then for a supplier. Anyway, the supplier was absolutely mortified that this was possible, anyway, I genuinely can't remember the rest of the story from there, but just be aware is that you can, if you see it in your web browser, then chances are that information can be extracted and then maybe put into a CSV file or an Excel file for your own use and abuse. So let me just quickly summarize where we are right now. We've learned that scraping is a viable business. Oh, by the way, Google, they have a spider, and I'm trying to put this before we go and summarize. Google has a spider. Microsoft Bing has a spider which goes off and just trawls the internet, and it spiders, it finds a link and goes and finds another link, and then it makes a database on what it finds. That's how Google works. So there are many legitimate uses for using a spider or scraping the internet. Now, when it comes to us or you as a business owner, generally speaking, it would probably be product data, either full product information, so all the information. I need to put the mug that way round, not the other way round. Sorry, it's got a reword. Let's not go there. And if you think about the attributes, you need the product's images, you need the variations, the quantities, and all the big information, the description. Whereas and that would be like the full scrape. And generally speaking, you would need a secondary scrape to maybe from the supplier to get the product information and the price and stock quantity, for example, from the supplier's site. Now, we've done a lot of talking about scraping, but I also want to make a point here is that scraping is only really a viable option when other means are not available. Okay, so what do I mean by other means are not available? This means that your supplier, while they've got a pretty website, they're a bit thick as wood and are unable to give you the information which they have on their website. That is a frequently used use case, if that makes sense, is that they've got a pretty website, lots of information, but they can't give you a CSV file or an Excel file which you can then go and use. They may have a backend, like Smith was mentioned a few minutes ago, which has got the information on there, but they can't give it to you, which is very infuriating. But don't panic; that is a good use of use of scraping. Now, Jay's just been to put a message in here in the live chat. I hired a scraping expert on Elance 2 years ago who created scripts which has saved thousands of hours of manual clicking. Changed my whole business. Jay, 100% believe that. Scraping is programming. So it is doing what computers are really good at, which are repetitive tasks. You give it the logic and it just goes off and does it. And once it's done, it goes, hey, here's your information. So Jay, I bet it absolutely transformed what you're up to. That's for sure. So anyway, coming back onto my topic, there are use cases when you're not use cases are by normal means you're not able to get the information. So you can ask for you could ask the supplier for the information, and they are unable or unwilling to give the information. Now, that unwilling piece, it might be a competitor. Okay, you might have a competitor who you want to price match upon, or maybe just keep an eye on what they've got in stock and things like that. And by the way, you could use web scraping to find out how many items they've got in stock. So going off on a slight tangent, you might be able to put items into a shopping cart and then go to a checkout and then find out how many they've really got in stock, and then know how much they're keeping in stock. And of course, if you do that repetitively over a period of time, you then know what they're selling and what they're not selling. And that is definitely not how Jungle Scout work out what sells and what doesn't sell on Amazon, which is exactly what they do. Anyway, coming back onto the topic. And the other thing is that they may not have the information available via an API. And an API sounds a bit scary, but it's long speak for application programming interface, or something which a developer could interface to more politely. So staying with the Amazon example, is that if you wanted basic product information from Amazon, then scraping is not the way to go. Use their API. They have several different APIs, and use their API. You can get the title, you get a basic description, you get some images, and it's good enough for normal means. And again, I'm just checking my notes on here. So yeah, maybe you just want a basic description off Amazon. Use their API. No need to scrape. Just use their API. It's very straightforward to do and relatively inexpensive. However, if you wanted all of the description, then you can't get that via their API. So scraping is your only way, which is not allowed, by the way, on Amazon. There are some legalities which go with this as well. We are going to assume that you have permission from the site owner to do what you're going to be doing. And if you don't, you're obviously going to be not going to do it for it. Now, the other thing with Amazon is that you used to be able to get the reviews as part of the API. That was removed a couple of years back, but technically you could still go and scrape them from Amazon to get that data if you wanted to use it for another use. Okay. So there was 3 scenarios there. Is that you have somewhere which is unable to give you the information, unwilling to give you the information, which could be a supplier or it could be a competitor, or there's no API available, or within that API, you can't get everything which you would perhaps like. Okay, and I've used Amazon there as an example. eBay has numerous different APIs, and you can get various levels of information out of eBay as well. So that is also a good use case. You wouldn't really scrape eBay when they have such a fantastic API to get information from it. Okay, so there are different scenarios here. Now, Dave, what have I got on here? So I'd like to do a real world example. Okay, I want to show you, give you like a real world example. For me to be able to do that, I need to go into an incognito window, and we will go and take a look at a website called Hobby King. And I'm going to go and screen share. Now, I need to move these screens around a second. You'll have to excuse me a moment. So I want that one there, and I'm going to go and click share and present to everybody. And there we go. Right. This is a website called Hobby King. So we are going to perhaps say that this is your supplier's website. Okay. And what you would like is, and again, they're unable or perhaps unwilling to give you the information on all the lovely model airplanes which they have. So what we've got in here, we've got a category here called all planes. And if you take a look here, we've got lots of different model airplanes, all good foam fantasies moving down. And then down at the bottom of the page, when we get down here, because I think it's set to about 100 per page, is that you'll notice there's some pagination. Okay, so programmatically, we know that we've got a page here of 100 items, and actually we know there's 3 pages because we can see there's a count there, and we can click on page 2, and then it will load eventually, and then there's page 3. Okay, and I'll click through to page 3, and then that will give us all of the products which they've got. Now let's go and pick. I want to go back to the first page, and the reason I want to go back to the first page is because this one is a very special example because they have items in multiple warehouses. So it's not just a simple spider, it's a slightly more complex one. So let's go and pick on an EF Extra. Now, you'll obviously notice on here that we have basic information. We have a title, we have images, we actually have a video available to us. We have pricing. We'll come back to that in a moment. We have ratings. We'll have a description and some specifications. Now, for all intents and purposes, this is all fair game as far as a scraper goes. So if you think about programmatically when we were back in that list, is that we know that as a spider, we want to come to the page which we were at a few moments ago. So this list page, okay, we know that there were 3 pages. Pagination is very straightforward. And then, of course, for each of the products, we want to go through and we want to perhaps go and borrow, in inverted commas, some information such as the title, the images, the price, the description, any specifications, and maybe if you were that way interested to get some reviews out of them as well. And this one is a special case, is because this website, they have multiple warehouses. Now, it costs £121.44 if it's from the UK warehouse, but if I click on EU, it would cost £120.44, and then from the global warehouse, hopefully we'll see a price difference. Oh, £101.65. Okay, so you'll see that in each different warehouse, you can have different prices. Now, so let's think about this for a few moments. Okay, let's pretend that Hobby King is your supplier. You've spoken to them. They're unable to give the information. They don't have an API or things like that. But they've said it's okay if you can borrow whatever information you want from our website to be able to go and sell our products elsewhere. So you could. Okay, and I want to keep this like as a real life example. You could nip across to a website called Upwork.com and pay someone. And by the way, the going rate is about $150 US. Okay, to go and do this for you. And on pretty much any website which follows this kind of structure, even with this kind of complexity as well, which to be honest really isn't that complex. And you just tell them what you want on there. The guy which did the couple of spiders for me, I just said, look, I just want this. I just took a screenshot of the page. There's a little plugin which you can get for what should we call it, Chrome, which takes a screenshot, and then I just put red lines over the stuff which I wanted. So I want the title, the price, but then I did do a special note about the different warehouses and said the URLs changing and things like that. And then I wanted the images as an array. I wanted the video, if there was one available, set differently. I wanted the description. I actually wanted the HTML version. I wanted the brand and the SKU out as well. I wanted 2 other things as well. And then I ended up, and then you wrote me a spider. And let me just get back to the screen. So I need to press the right button, not this stop broadcast button, which somebody may have pressed it once or twice before. So you can think about this now. So we can get someone to write us what is, for all intents and purposes, an inexpensive spider, okay, which is a tool, which is just basically a scraping tool, which will go off, apply some logic, go through each one of those. We have 3 pages of 100, so it'll go to the first page, get all the URLs of the 100 products, then go to page 2 and get all the URLs in the next 100, page 3, get all those, and then send each one off to go and get the title, get the images, go and get the description, go and get the price, quantity. Basically, if you can see it on the page and it's in the same place every single time, I pretty much guarantee you it'll be scrapable. And then at the end of it, you'll get a file which you can then use to most likely go on and tweak. Okay, the information won't be too perfect. It will be good enough as a start, so you can then go on and adapt and bend it to your own means. That may be getting into tweaking it for an import to then go on and be imported into, say, a Magento and M2 Repro, so you then can sell it onto eBay and Amazon in your own website, for example. Now, that was the first scrape, okay? At the same time, the guy also wrote me, so let's go and get the page back again. Let me choose that one, and that one, and present to everybody. There we go, and hide. Now, at the same time, is that we also wrote a secondary spider, which is basically almost exactly the same as the first one, but it didn't get loads of other information. It just got the very basic information. So what it would do is go through the all planes category. go through those 100 pages at the beginning, 100 items at the beginning, but it wouldn't bother about the title. It wouldn't bother about the description, the images and videos and whatever else. It would just get the SKU, the warehouse, and the price. Okay. And that was important to me and the project which I've been working on. So let's get the screen back. There we go. And that was important to me in the project which I was working on because it's a price tracking website. So we very slowly crawl the site and we go off, and instead of trying to get all the information, which does take a while, instead we just go off and we get all the just a little bit of information which we're after, which is stock quantity and SKU and price, so that we're able to track the pricing over time. And of course, because we're getting so much less information, it can run so much faster in there. So that is a real world example of again a project which I recently did. Now we did speak about pricing. Okay, we've not really spoken about. So a quick look. Oh, actually, Jay, I'll get to your comments in a moment. We aren't talking about programming languages and ways which you can get this done, especially if you've never written a line of code before. And by the way, if you've never written a line of code before, but you have an actual use case for this, don't panic. If you can manage print, screen, paste, and then draw on the screen and say, I want this, and then write it down. If you can write down logically what you want it to do and what information you want, then it's very likely it can be written into a scraping script of some form or another for you. So, Dave, we've got a couple of comments on here, haven't we?
We do. And it seems to come from Jay. He said, I always wanted to do a script to chart competitor repricer floor prices. Cool idea. And then he says, can you even have your script output data in a MAGMI ready format so you can FTP upload to a server for automatic imports? I see where Jay's going with this.
Yes. If you can think of it and it can be found on the internet, it can be written. It really just depends on how much energy or money you'd like to throw at this. And I would definitely suggest you start off small, okay, for it. But what Jay is discussing there, you can even have your script output data in MAGMI ready format. So those of you which don't know what MAGMI is, it's an import tool for Magento. So instead, you could even get it to run the MAGMI import for you and ingest the data, that's technically what it's called. It's called ingestion. It could even run that script for you and ingest that data into your Magento install. So I've got a bit nerdy. Apologies. Let me wind that back. Simply, you could have a spider or script which goes to your supplier's website, gets the latest pricing and stock information, and then makes a file which could get imported into your tool, whatever you're using. We use Magento and M2 Repro as an example. And then, of course, then that would update with business logic in there. You write the logic. You again tell the programmer if it's stock quantity at 10 or less, then you set the is available to 0 because you don't want it to be listed, and let them sort that out for you. And yeah, it can go as far or as little as you need it to be.
I always remember whenever I ask you, oh, could we do this? You're like, it's code. We can do anything.
You've got to get, this is the thing, right, is that with code, for all intents and purposes, anything is possible. And this is one of the biggest brilliance of code and software, but also it's like the Achilles heel. Sometimes you just have to focus. I'm in this phase right now. You just have to focus on getting stuff done to get it out and just make it work and not worry about all the bells and whistles. That stuff can get added later. Okay. So there's also some more comments on there. R. Smith says, do you have to have the script sitting somewhere in the cloud, basically on the internet? It's an additional cost, e.g. monthly, or am I thinking about this wrong? Now, I'll call you Richard. Okay, so Richard, what I would say for this one is it depends on what you're doing and what it's been written in. Okay, so if we use iMacros as an example, that is a web browser-based scraping tool, or automation tool is the correct term for it, is that it runs in your web browser. Okay, it's a local script which was probably written in JavaScript, and it can run in your browser, and you can run it 10 times. Just click the button, and it goes off and runs. Or it could run once because you only click the button once. But it may go off and do something, and then it stops. And if you want it to run again, you press the button again, and it's just running off your machine. And of course, if you take that script and put it into your laptop, you can run it on there. Okay, so that's a localized script. So that's the kind of thing which I might have done in inverted commas for that browser-based game called Tribal Wars. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. I wrote so many subroutines, and everything was random. It was brilliant. It just got to the stage where I just got bored, and it was more about the coding and when I was playing a game in the end. Anyway, so it depends. Is the answer there, R. Smith? It depends on what the script is, what tool it's been written for. Typically. Okay, I've used iMacros as a good example because it's just browser-based. It's local to your computer. For a more serious application or more automated application, which you run via the internet, there's many websites out there. Scraping Hub. I will just put a link to that in the chat. Scrapinghub.com. Let me type that one in. Scraping Hub. Those guys will. Annoyingly, they'll charge you $500 to scrape any website, but no, they've got tools which can either help you make the script yourself, or to host the scripts for you. Okay, now this is where we need to get a little bit nerdy. Oh, sorry, let me just make sure I've answered that question on there. Does it cost you any? Yes and no. Scraping Hub, picking on those specifically, they have a free option which will allow the spider to run for an hour. For free, or you could pay $9. That's about a $5 for those of us in the United Kingdom a month to run a spider continuously with 1 gig RAM, which is quite a lot, to be honest. So really inexpensive, stupidly inexpensive. And that's a pay-as-you-go service. Okay, so $9 a month. It's not. It's almost a joke, in short. John Pennington says, if scraping a Magento site, could you scrape something you cannot see, but the site uses in its search criteria? So, John, that is a fantastic question. Let me show you is the answer to that. So the answer is probably yes. If it's available if it's in the page
in the
source,
code, yeah,
it's got to be in the code in there. Or you can have, so John, the other example before we go off look at this, it could be a case that you might need to do the search for the thing first and then do the results which you get back. Okay, so whereas a minute ago we went to a page, so we had a page of planes and then we went through those 3 pages of planes, that could have been do a search for yellow at the top and then found all the yellow planes and then just put those and then found all the yellow planes and gone off that way. Okay, yeah, let me just get back to the screen a second and let me just just make a point on there. It has to be in the page or you need a way of getting to it. Okay, so let me click hide on there. So let me go. I'm going to pick on the EF Extra, which is a fantastic model airplane, by the way. It goes super fast and makes a swooshy noise. Anyway, let me go and grab that. Oh, actually, I'm going to go and grab that. So that gets us near the cart somewhere. Okay, so let's go and view page source. It's a bit frustrating. That's like they actually use Cloudflare, which is a bit of a pain in the rear. It does cause a few challenges. Anyway, let's get myself points. In the code, I now know in their HTML, their product price, and then it goes -58532. That is actually the internal product ID from Magento. And that would probably be a safer SKU to use than maybe their product data SKU, which is down here. Okay, because again, 585 means that they got 58,532 product records in their inventory. I'll just use that as an example. So if it's in their HTML, okay, it can be got at. And as long as it's in the same place every time, which most sites are, then happy days. For example, you could, there's some JSON up here in the top of their page. You look, category product, look, set product view, and there's the ID there, and there's some other information here which, if you were that interested in, you could get at it. Anyway, my point being, is in the source code of the website. If it's there on pretty much every product, then it could be extractable. Now, don't hit the stop broadcast button, Mr. Ogborn. Thank you. I put that on the wrong screen. So, John, bit of an awkward one to answer, okay? But if it's on the page or in the page source, the answer is yes. If you can get to it by another means, by making a search to trigger some results, by finding an item there, or not by not finding an item in those results, because it does, you could have done one search, logged all the results, do another search, and then compared one set of results to another set of results and looked for the differences. That, again, anything which is programmatically possible is possible, if that makes it makes sense. It's a bit of a tricky subject for us to cover, because I am assuming you have some form of logic testing history. So basically, if you can see it, you can get it. We'll just keep it as simple as that. So yeah, Jay says we use a $10 VPS, which is a virtual private server from Linode for scripts. They do not need much horse, but no, they don't at all. They're not memory intensive. They're not. They just need to be left to run in the background. And yeah, $10 or so a month. Yeah, happy days. To be honest, I'm actually a little bit a fan of Scraping Hub at the moment, mainly because it's just so simple for me anyway. I can update in GitHub and then just push, and it picks up the changes, and off it runs, and it runs every day. And they got a nice little API, and you get the information back. It's for me, it's worth $9 a month per spider, at least. So happy days. JLo says, I noticed Hobby King had no sitemap link or XML file available. Usually a good starting point. So Jay is absolutely correct to a point. Is that most websites will create an XML sitemap, which is a great file for scraping to start with, especially like a competitor's website. So let's just say that Hobby King is our competitor, and we want to keep an eye on their prices. So let's go back and do this. So I'm going to click share on there, present to everybody, and not press the stop button. So Jay's talking about most websites will now have a sitemap file available for Google to pick up, which is basically an index of pages for Google to go and search, and they rank them by order. Now, normally this would be at, I say normally in inverted commas, it depends how determined you are, sitemap.xml, something like that, not found, okay? And normally it would be at that URL. That said, they do have an XML sitemap. So sitemap.xml. Give me a second. Oh, come on. You could try the Googler. Google. No, type in Google. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Hobby King sitemap.xml. Give me a second. Oh, look, they do have a robots.txt file. Oh, look, there it is. There is their sitemap.xml. They do have an XML file for the sitemap, and ta-da! Now, those of you which are looking at this, you may be thinking, oh my God, that looks a bit nerdy. And that, to be honest, that's great, because this is now a sitemap for all of their sites. And they do China, EU, EN. There we go. So that's what I'm after. And we now go in and ta-da, right click, view source. This will probably clog out the browser now because it's probably very big, but they might have a sitemap available. There we go. Brilliant. Look, there's all the links to the pages. There's a drift card. I'm going to pick that one at random. And there we go. It's a real product. So Jay, good comments on there. So let me just quickly read back. I'll put this on the screen so you can see what the comments were a few moments ago. Jay's question, I noticed Hobby King have no sitemap link. Technically they do. We actually deemed it is not a good starting block for us, and we went a different route, which is slightly more robust, I would like to say for that. So yeah, I have gone with a more robust approach, and now I've lost my screen over there. So press stop there. Cool. And I've lost your comments now. I do apologize. I've just been pushing all these screens around. There we go. Get myself back into some order. So that was a real world example. It could have been Hobby King as being your competitor and you wanted to keep an eye on the prices. Is that that is perfectly possible. And again, that was not as a competitor in this instance. It was more as actually as an affiliate to work with them, not against them, if that makes sense. And there are things which you need to be aware of. A developer would be able to help you with these things, such as that website which we saw a few moments ago. They do use a tool called Cloudflare, which is it stops websites being abused. Okay, and as such, we have to crawl much slower than what you could perhaps get away on another website which doesn't have any protection at all. Also, just as good manners, you do try and rate limit what you're doing as well. There's no point going, well, hey, let's have your whole site and then taking their website down. That is classed as a denial of service attack, which is not what you want. You want to work with them, okay? And you don't want your hosting provider going mental at you because the site which you're scraping is now complaining to them as, it could get very messy. So just be a considerate scraper is what I would like to say to that. And slowly, I can't say the other word, it is definitely a viable approach. Now, with that said, Dave, I just want to quickly go back through my notes here. So scraping, yeah, it's, and we are going to look to wrap up. So if you do have any questions, please do ask now. And do remember, is that if you've got a question afterwards, remember you can ask in the comment section underneath this video or nip across to the Facebook group. And there's a link to that in the video description. So just looking for my notes here, scraping allows you to programmatically get information from the internet. So think about that Hobby King website at the moment, which we saw a few moments ago. Maybe that could have been your supplier's website, or maybe it could have been your competitor's website. Nigh on everything you see in your web browser could be scraped. Keep that in the back of your mind. And also keep in the back of your mind, scraping may not be the best answer here. Remember, scraping should only, or spiders should only ever be used as a last resort, as in that you have asked for information. You don't want to ask for that information because it's perhaps a competitor, or it's not available via their API. So we used Amazon and eBay as an example. They both have very, very good APIs to a certain degree. We also spoke about, and we've seen practical examples using the Hobby King as an example. You could just replace it with Amazon or your competitor's website. It's possible, in short. We spoke about scraping and spiders being in two pieces. Normally what I would suggest, and this is how my approach is that you do a big spider which gets all the information which what you want, and maybe even gets run once per week, okay, and gets all the information and then gives you an extract, and then you could then look for the differences and then update any information which you got. Maybe suppliers have been adding new products, for example, or taking some away, as the case may be. And then also maybe think about having a second spider which only gets the real information which you're after on a daily basis, which is in like using Hobby King as an example there, would be pricing and the stock number. Okay, that's all I'm interested in. If it's a supplier and they have the stock information on the page, then yeah, you would probably want SKU, quantity, and price. Okay, that's what you'd want. Remember, R. Smith asked earlier if this is behind a login. Anything you can do by pressing the mouse and touching on the keyboard can be done in a scraper. We did cover a couple of real-world examples, like we saw Hobby King a few moments ago. Now, one thing which we didn't really touch on, okay, is languages. Okay, as you can imagine, there's as many programming languages as there is brews of coffee. Okay, That said, the most common languages which you'll find most freelancers using is Python. Python, it has its benefits, it has its negatives, but it's a programming. They're all a bit of a muchness. Okay, it's not a particularly complex one. You're not going to see loads of nerdy code going on. Well, you are going to see some nerdy bits in there, but it's not hard. It's quite human readable. They teach it in schools because it's not that hard, because it's quite a common language. It would be cheap to get written and cheap to get updated. Okay. But don't think for one moment that you cannot use other languages. I use PHP for scraping. You can either do it directly, you can use libraries like Scrappy, for example. You can also use other languages like JavaScript or Node.js. You can use other tools, Lambda, for example, in Amazon Web Services. I've written 4 scrapers in that. Whatever language you like, you could write in C# if you wanted to. Now, if you haven't got a clue what I'm talking about, the different languages, is that basically all you're after is a Python spider. Okay. Now, why am I saying, and I'll pop this in the chat as well for you, just so you get it right way, in Python spider. Okay. And the reason why you're interested in the Python spider, because it's the simplest way forward. Most third-party websites which allow you to run spiders will support Python. Okay. And it's also one of the cheapest routes to go. Now, I'm going to use that Hobby King spider as a reference. Okay, that cost me $150. Okay, so about 100 quid, give or take a few cups of coffee. Complete bargain, especially for me. I don't know Python. I mean, it's the same for you. I'm the same city as you. Don't know Python. Got no interest in learning Python. I'll get around to it eventually. But I've got no interest in learning Python. And you probably got no interest in learning Python because you didn't really care. Yeah, $150 from Upwork.com. Find a good freelancer, one which has got a good history on them, and explain what you want. Your job here is to go, I'd like a spider which goes to this website and gets this information every week, and then I'd like another spider which goes to this website and gets this information, which is basically the same as the first one, just cut down to these couple of fields. So you're not writing twice the 2 spiders, you're just writing 1 1/4, if that makes sense. And about $150 is a good price for a good freelancer. Okay, obviously there will always be somebody cheaper and there will always be someone more expensive. That said, you could go to udemy.com and look up the Scrappy for Python, and there's a course on there for $25, and you can sit there for a couple of hours and learn how to do this yourself. Okay, frankly speaking, I could have done that, but I have no interest in that at all. So instead, I just paid the $150. I got it done for me. A couple of days later, yeah, that's great. Have some money. Brilliant. Absolute bargain. So we did speak, and let me just put on there. Yeah, there are sites out there which will offer this as a service for you. Scraping Hub is a site where you can get your script hosted for you. If you're unsure, again, if you're paying $150 for a script for a half decent developer, they will be able to help you with the implementation side as well. They're normally pretty good. And again, even if they charge you another $25 more, brilliant. It's just like giving the money, sort it out for us. That'd be great, kind of thing. And yeah, that's all the notes which I've got in here. Let's have a quick look. Just go into your comments a moment. So Mike, and I'll tell you what, let's get this up on the screen so you can see. I'll put that over there. There we go. So you can see what I'm seeing on my screen. So Mike says, when you scrape a site for products for the first time and then you scrape again a week later, what's the best way to see what products have been added or removed? So Jay's actually been an answer to this question, is right as well, is that to just basically compare the differences. Now, there's a couple of different ways different tools which you could use to compare. It depends whether you're doing it. So it might be in Excel. You can do a comparison in Excel, very straightforward in Excel. Does depend how many products excuse me, how many records you have in the Excel spreadsheet, it could lag out your computer, which has been known here many, many times. So yeah, you could do a comparison in Excel. Your developer could maybe do one thing which we used to do. I'm thinking about another use case is that we used to have a MySQL table, which we had the today's information in it, and then we compared today's information against another table which was yesterday's information, and we found the differences that way. And of course, once we found the differences, we'd been and done something special with those, and then we took today's information, deleted yesterday's table and put today's information in yesterday's table, and then tomorrow we would put that information in today's and then do the same again. So very straightforward. And yes, Mike, we all understand why you would be asking that question. We have been caught out with a feed when our supplier removes products. Yes, I've personally been caught on that one. It is a complete nightmare, but don't panic. It is perfectly possible and actually a very simple process to go through, whether you're using Excel or maybe something a little bit more advanced. Jay says, our developer uses PHP as well. Yeah, I've written stuff in PHP, really good. It's really good. Any language which your developer knows intimately is going to be the right language for them. PHP or just as a general spider for someone looking to scrape, Python, I would probably suggest is the best place to start for you. In short, and Jay says Eastern Europe has tons of script wizards. Ours is Russia. Yeah. So Jay, just give like some quick thought on there. You can, yeah, Karen. Oh yeah, and Jay, you put another point on there. You can have your script do the comparison and even email you the new and discontinued products. Yeah, in fact, with the new ones, it could do a separate import for you, so you don't even see them, or maybe just email you a summary. And the discontinued products may take them out of stock for you automatically or programmatically, and then send you an email to say that I've been and done that for you. So those were the comments which had come in. Now, there is one little note in there, and I want to bring this up from Jay. He was mentioned about Eastern Europe and Russia for developers. Personally, okay, this is my own personal experience, is that I have not found Indian developers that good, okay? Jay's been picked up on a point here, probably because we may have mentioned it many moons ago in another mastermind or in a course at some point, is that Eastern Europe and Russia, and I'm going to include Russia in this as well, is that the arithmetic which they are taught in school is far superior than what they are here, maybe here in the United Kingdom and probably in the US as well. As such, Eastern European and Russian developers tend to be brilliant, okay? That said, always read reviews, always go for a developer, especially on the freelancing websites. Again, my personal suggestion is upwork.com. Always make sure that you read their reviews. Never get rising talent, I genuinely ignore as an option. Unless they've got hours and good stars underneath them, I don't hire them, okay? You basically pay for what you get. And if you've got someone who's earned $92,000 off upwork.com and has got 5 billion stars and loads of reviews, they're probably going to be good and they're probably going to be worth the money. Also, I would suggest that you keep away from agencies as well. A one-to-one relationship with the developer rather than an agency involved is also my preferred route as well. Okay, so yeah, and Reese has just been put in the chat. Totally agree. Versus Indian versus Eastern Europe, and again, that's only my personal experiences. Okay, I know others have had very, very good experiences with Indian-based developers. The issue for me is that it's an Eastern versus Western world kind of thing. Eastern Europe is still Western enough to understand some of the things which we take for granted, whereas the further over east, they don't understand and some of the Western world intricacies. Okay, what I've personally found with the developers which I've hired and have done work for me, they kind of get what I'm asking for, and then they know the other bits, the daft bits, whereas an Indian based developer, because they don't have the Western world outlook or the history there, like the culture piece to it. They'll do exactly what you've asked them to do and nothing more and nothing less, which can or cannot be an issue for you. Okay, so yeah, Eastern Europe, Russian developers, you can't really go wrong, to be brutally honest. Jay says on there, we found our guy on Upwork, $15 an hour. Would cost exponentially more in the USA. Absolutely. A good developer is worth their salt, and $15 an hour is good money, but not bank breaking. And it wouldn't take 10 hours to write a Python script to do some scraping. Okay, so yeah, there you go, scraping. I hope this has been and given you at least a very high level idea of what is possible. Keep in the back of your mind is that anything which you see in your web browser, YouTube, for example, where you're watching this video, most likely, could be scraped to get the information off there. Again, that would be one of those no-brainer ones. Why would you want to do it when there's an API available to you? Okay, but suppliers' websites, competitors' websites, getting that extra bit of information out of Amazon is perfectly possible. Okay, if you can follow a logical route for a website, chances are a spider could be written. And again, what I would if you have now got like a use case in your head, go and open a Google Doc and write down the steps which you would want the spider or the script to take, okay, with real life examples. And then if you want like the title, you want the images, you want the description, how do you want the images? Do you want the image files, or do you just want the links to the images? What information do you need? Write it out into a Google Doc, okay, and then use that Google Doc as the job specification, which you then copy and paste into Upwork.com, for example. And by the way, we probably should be affiliated with them. I'm just using Upwork because I have such good experiences with them, so that's why they're getting suggested, rather than the very bad experience which I had with Freelancer.com only a very short period ago. Anyway, use that as the copy and paste description for the ad itself, and do blatantly put in there and say we've got a rough idea what is possible. We will need some hand holding to get this working. Okay, and about $150 for a pair of spiders, one to do a big scrape to get all the information and one to do just a price and stock update is about right. Okay, if you want extras on top of that, if you want to find the products which weren't there last week and they're now here this week, you're going to probably pay a bit more. How much more? Don't know. How much your complexity do you want to add to the situation? So yeah, straightforward as that. Right, so a quick look. Jay, we all appreciate on there why you would not want to share him, because Jay has just been recently, can you share his details? And let's be honest, I would share him, but I need him to keep him going for me. And there's nothing wrong with that, Jay. So
we've been in that same position a few times.
Yeah, if you find a good developer, hire them and keep them, because they are difficult to find. And again, this is why using a site like Upwork, where you can see the star ratings and things like that, it's always a good idea. So with that said, this week was all about scraping. And I've done my best to keep this as non-nerdy as possible. And I do apologize to those who have a more technical background. I know that that's probably been very painful for you, but you were not my target audience for this, or my Dave's target audience for this. It was just a very high-level view so that we can get an idea of what is possible. And it is a viable business tool. I'm using it myself for my own abuses. You may see a tool in the very near future which has elements of this thrown in as well. So, hey ho. Dave, what have we got in next week's Mastermind?
Next week, we are doing a new sort of comparison between eBay and Amazon and what the differences are in the state of play in 2018. Obviously, a few weeks ago, we did the breakdown of eBay, then we've done the breakdown of Amazon, and now we're going to take a look at what the state of play is basically 2018, what the key differences are, and all that sort of good stuff.
That's going to be a tough one because, again, we always know the marketplaces are in a time of change. eBay is in a really big time of change right now, so we might have maybe a little bit of forecasting to what's likely to happen over the next couple of years as well. So that's going to be
absolutely. And I think again, just want to say thank you to not only you, Matt, for I mean, I've been quiet this week. Scraping, not my thing, as I'm sure you can all appreciate. But thanks to Matt for sharing this with us. Also, thanks to Mike, who suggested this topic in the Facebook group. And lots of people in there saying, best topic yet. Thanks for this. There's the proof. So, guys, if you're not in the Facebook group already, the link is in the description below. If anytime you get an idea or something you'd like me and Matt to talk about in these webinars, do, put your ideas forward. There's no such thing as a bad suggestion. And, yeah, we'll get it incorporated into the mastermind calendar.
Now, actually, there's a question which is coming from Nick, and Nick has said, "Any chance of a nerdy version with real-time examples?" Now, the thing is that the stuff which I've got written in Node.js and is up in AWS and Lambda, and the other stuff, the other bit which I've got written in PHP, they're very specific, and frankly, I don't want to share those with you. That said, the Python example, which I've got here, like I said, I don't know Python. Python is a language which I've specifically chosen not to even try and learn. That said, it's not very complex at all. So what I've been and done in the chat for you, if you type into the Googler, Scrappy, Crawler, Udemy, the top result is from... Click the wrong link. Give me a second. In fact, why am I doing this? I can just put it on the screen. Give me a second. Right, click there, and not that one. That one. That one. Okay. This one here, 25 quid. Okay. And by the way, I'm sure you may or may not be able to find a coupon kicking around. Okay. It is the bestseller for this one, and it will take you through all the steps. And you'll be able to learn how to do like XPath and the whole lot. Okay, so if you wanted a much deeper, more nerdier version, okay, then that is the course for you to go and look at. Okay, I've not bought this one myself because I have too many other courses which I personally need to finish before I go and buy any more. Okay, but when I see that one on sale, I personally go and buy it. Because it's the best one which I found. Like I said, I've got other courses which I've got to finish myself before chucking in another programming language, blah, blah, blah. For me, it was just cheaper just to go $150. You go sort it out. A couple of days later, it's sorted. Few tweaks, done. So it was a bargain. Jay quickly says, iMacro seems interesting. Yeah, look out. Jay, iMacros, that's what I started with. Fantastic browser-based scraping tool. You can do very advanced things with that using JavaScript. And I mean very advanced things with doing that. Personally, I find it easier than using Scrappy because or Python, because I don't know the language Python, but I do know JavaScript. And I know what can be done. And it's very, very cool. So iMacros is also worth a look at as well. So I hope that's been helped. It's time for us to go. From myself, Matt.
And from me, Dave.
And Mr. Merlin. Where is he?
He's fast asleep now. You can't see him.
Yeah.
There he is. He's asleep on his little temporary bed. He joined me for the webinar, but yeah. He got scraping clearly wasn't his thing either.
No, he gone. So sorry, Merlin. Anyway, thank you for you taking the time to join us. Same time next week. Next week's topic was the eBay versus Amazon comparison, which is going to be very curious because we are at very much a time of change
especially with eBay.
With eBay, that's for sure. So, with that said, we're off. Have a fantastic afternoon. Cheerios.
See you next time, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.